Hi, everyone, and welcome to Walter's Wives and Woes.
I'm Shelby,
And I'm Marissa, and we are
the
the
Walters
Walters Girls.
girls.
Thanks, everyone, for tuning in to our second episode, Crying Over Spilled Milk. If you couldn't tell by the title, we are going to be diving into mental health issues and specifically our experiences with them. So, we are going to be extremely vulnerable and authentic. And we just hope that by sharing our stories, maybe some other people can relate and know that they are not alone. Talking about mental health is a very difficult thing to do. But luckily, Shelby and I are kind of open books whenever it comes to it. And we feel like this will be something that a lot of people can relate to. You don't even have to be a mom. You really don't even have to be a woman. This does not discriminate. So, when thinking about mental health, we were really just talking about our family's history of it. It is on both sides. So, for us, it's just kind of inevitable that we both have anxiety. For sure. Shelb, do you have depression?
Mm, not really.
I do, unfortunately. Um, so both of our grandmas on our maternal and paternal side have struggled with depression, and our maternal grandmother also struggles with anxiety. I don't really remember if our mom, that's what we call our dad's mom, she passed away some time ago, but I don't recall her having anxiety. Shelby, you were older.
No, she mostly shared she had more of the depression
Mm-hmm.
than anxiety.
Yeah. And then, after I'd say our dad passed away, I really realized that he had anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
And
Definitely with older age.
yeah, the older he got. And then our dad's dad actually has, is it bipolar schizophrenic or
He's just bipolar.
bipolar? He experiences extreme moments of mania.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like a later on in life diagnosis.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Followed by episodes of depression as well.
yeah, so extremely high highs and extremely low lows.
Mm-hmm.
And our mom also struggles with anxiety. So it's just kind of like no surprise that we struggle with it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it wasn't until later on in life that I really realized that, oh, feeling like this isn't normal.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how old were you, would you say, whenever you were like, I think I might have something wrong?
I was 20. It was when Ma was sick, actually, when I had my first panic attack. And that's when I started getting treated for anxiety. Um, but like I've told my mom several times, like I know that my anxiety started at a really young age. But I didn't realize it was anxiety until later on in life.
And do you want to share what that was? Like, I think it's okay that you share it.
Yeah, my anxiety started with my dad, actually. Um, he was young and a hothead when we were kids. And he was essentially a kid raising three kids. And he had a short fuse. Um, and I feel like every time, like around the time where I knew my dad was getting home, I would get really anxious because I just knew he was going to come home screaming and yelling at us. And some of it rightfully so. Like
Now that we're parents, we get it.
yeah, we weren't the best kids. Like we didn't always do our chores and stuff, and we
But we
fought
weren't the
all the time.
worst.
Yeah, but we weren't the worst. And I don't blame my dad because, again, I think he was a kid raising kids, but I know that's when my anxiety started, and it's kind of led to like some OCD tendencies
For
the
real.
older I've gotten. My anxiety has gotten a lot worse with age and postpartum. After having my daughter, I had really bad postpartum anxiety, and I still suffer with postpartum anxiety, but I feel like I'm pretty well medicated. But I know, like, probably from the outside looking in, like my mom and sister and my husband, they all think I have pretty bad anxiety. And maybe I do. I don't know. I'm
I,
just
w-
used to it.
I wouldn't say that anymore, but definitely when Lainey was a baby, like, and we talked about this the other day, like, you had such a terrible pregnancy. Like, there were so
Mhm.
many things that could have gone wrong. And then your labor on top of that, like, so
Mhm.
many things that could have gone wrong. And as with everyone else's pregnancy and labors, but
Mhm.
yours was different. It truly was.
Yeah.
And whenever you go through that, I feel like even if you didn't already suffer from anxiety, you would.
Yeah.
But like before, so you went off your medication.
Yeah, I couldn't take my
Yeah,
medication. It's you're not able to take it when you're pregnant.
but they should have put you on an alternative.
Yeah, and so some of that too, like, was my doctor just being stupid. Not my current OB, but my first OB, which I'll talk about my first OB. But I also couldn't keep any medicine down
Hmm.
either. So,
So you essentially had to go off of your anxiety meds cold
yeah,
turkey. And if anyone's ever been on anxiety meds, you know you are not supposed to go off of them cold turkey.
yeah.
Um,
Especially I'm on the highest dose possible. So I went from like being pretty well medicated to like not being medicated at all.
and then plus being super sick during your pregnancy, which whenever you're sick or stressed, anxiety just feeds off of that. But back to like what I was saying, I wouldn't say anymore your anxiety is as bad, but when Lainey was really little, I remember telling mom and grandma, like, Shelby needs to get back on her anxiety meds. Like, and not just, I was not coming from a mean place. And I
Mhm.
think I told you too,
Mhm.
because your quality of life is just so much better whenever
Yeah.
you're treated. You're a better mom, you're a
Yeah.
better wife, you're a better person, you feel
Yeah.
better about yourself, you get better sleep. And
Mhm.
that was the other thing. Lainey didn't sleep. Whenever you don't get sleep, your anxiety's through the roof too.
Yeah.
So, but no, I feel like now you do have some anxiety, but I wouldn't say like you don't annoy me. Like,
Yeah. I mean, I can live a normal life. Like I still have intrusive thoughts,
hmm,
but I don't let them control me either, and I don't let them like dictate how I live my life for the most part.
yeah. And let's talk about the intrusive thoughts because for the longest time, I did not know I had anxiety. And whenever I had Jonah, I would just like think like, Jonah's going to roll over onto a pillow and he's going to suffocate to death, or we're going to get in a car accident and Jonah's going to die. And these
Mhm.
thoughts consumed me.
Yep.
And I didn't know that wasn't normal.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, I feel like some of it is normal, like being a new mom and a first time mom.
but not to constantly think
Yeah.
about it.
But to the point where, like, I know after Lainey was born, I probably didn't sleep for like a week.
Yeah.
Um, because I thought of every way she was going to die. And yeah, that's probably not normal. Um, but yeah, anxiety takes like normal mom thoughts and it just like exacerbates them to the
No.
point where you can't like function correctly.
And they're the extreme.
Yeah, the extremes. And it makes raising a child really hard.
Hmm.
So,
It does.
again, anxiety leading up to pregnancy. So your hormones, after you have your baby and you kind of come home and you get settled, they essentially start to crash, and you come off that like high that you've been on in labor and delivery and like those couple of days after. And that's like a really easy time to kind of sink into, like, some people experience baby blues or they experience postpartum anxiety. Again, some of that is normal to a certain degree, uh, but if it's affecting your quality of life, you definitely need to get treated. So I did get put back on my medicine very shortly after I had Lainey. So I think it was at my 6 week appointment. I got put back on my anxiety medicine. I started out at the lowest dose, quickly realized that was not cutting it. So my doctor bumped me. And then that still was not cutting it. And we bumped again. And now I'm back up to the highest dose possible. And it's leveled me out for the most part. And I definitely know when I've gone off of it. Like, I had a few days over break where my medication was refilled and I just hadn't gotten the opportunity to go and pick it up. And I was like crying all the time. And I was super emotional and just stressed out and worked up. And I was like, oh, yeah, it's probably because I haven't taken my medicine. And then, like, 2 days later, after I've been on my meds for a couple days, like, the emotional Shelby went away. It's kind of crazy how it works. But medication, not that I'm saying go get medicated, because sometimes you can cope and deal with things on your own, but sometimes you do need medication.
In regards to my experience with anxiety and depression,
I had just gotten married, and mine was triggered by hormones. I was on the Depo-Provera shot for a couple of years, and after I got married, I went off of it because, like, you don't know anything about the Depo. There's like lawsuits against it right now. And so, rewind 9 years ago, I went on it because Shelby was on it. She loved it. You don't get a period. Awesome. Well, when I went on it, I had breakthrough spotting for 6 straight months. Kept being told it was normal. After 6 months, I didn't have a period. Thought it was awesome. So I got married. We weren't going to try having kids, but I didn't feel like myself. Wait, no. The reason I went off of it is because it killed my sex drive. And you're 20 years old. You don't want to be dealing with that, especially as a newlywed. And so I went off of it. Well, my hormones it caused me to be so out of whack. I didn't have a period for 2 years after going off of it. So then I had gained, from the time I went off of it, 2 months later, I had gained almost like 60 pounds. And I went to the doctor because I couldn't stop eating. I was not myself. I was not happy. I could not stop eating. And I went to the doctor, and I remember he was my family doctor, and he was old. And I was just bawling. And he dismissed me so fast and was like, well, sometimes people get this thing called the winter blues. They call it seasonal affective disorder now. But most of the time, it's just because it's dark outside. And I was like, I don't think that's it. And he's like, well, do you want me to prescribe you medication? And I was like, if you think that's what I need,
You're the doctor.
yeah.
You tell me.
And he put me on Lexapro. Was like, try this for 2 weeks. If it gets any worse, let me know. If not, we'll just keep you on it. I think he started me out at 10 milligrams. I don't even know the Lexapro dosage anymore, but that like made me almost suicidal. And I called him and I was like, this is not working. Like, it's worse. And he's like, oh, usually it works for people. It's like, well, it's not working for me. And so then he put me on Wellbutrin, and that worked. Like I was more myself. I stopped gaining weight. I just stayed consistent with where I was. Um, and I was on it for about a year, and I don't know why, but I eventually went off of it. But then I I remember after I had Jonah, our dad was visiting, and I just cried all the time. I cried. Like I would just go to talk and just start bawling. Do you remember that, Shelb?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And someone, like, I think mom left the room, and my dad looked at me. He's like, Sis, are you sure this is just hormones?
Mm-hmm.
I was like, yeah, they said it's normal, as I'm bawling my eyes out. Well, it wasn't normal, and I didn't know it until after probably I stopped pumping and felt like myself again. And I was like, oh, yeah, I definitely had postpartum depression and anxiety. It was so bad. I remember one time, this is my worst parenting moment. Jonah did not sleep at all. I was up. It was 8 a.m. and I had not been to sleep yet. And he was just crying and crying. And I called Derek because he had just got to work, and I was like, if you don't get home, something bad's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I like realized that like these moms that suffer from postpartum depression and anxiety, they go crazy. You
Mm-hmm.
literally go crazy, and that's how you hurt your baby. I did not hurt Jonah, but if I wouldn't have gotten sleep, I truly think something bad would have happened.
Mm-hmm.
Like I would have left him in the room or something because he just wouldn't stop crying. And it was so terrible. Like I still feel bad about that.
You shouldn't. It's normal. I mean, it's not normal, but
It's not
it
normal.
happens to so many moms. Like you can, not that you ever want to see moms hurt their babies, but you can empathize with them a little bit more when they haven't had sleep, when their hormones and the chemicals in their brain are totally off whack. Like,
and your baby won't stop
and
screaming.
you understand. Like, you don't want to think you could ever do that, but you understand how
It
that
happens.
happens.
Yeah. So
So,
then I pumped for 10 months with Jonah, and I think I felt like I was doing really good. And then it was October of 2021. I was pregnant with Gemma. I was sleeping all the time. I cried all the time. I was miserable. And like during this time, our dad was going through treatment, and it was just one letdown after another.
mm-hmm.
And I, at the time, I thought it was like situational depression and anxiety. And I remember going to my OB, who is a saint, and I was just like, I just don't feel like myself. And I'm like, I cry all the time, and I don't sleep. And like, I don't sleep at night, but I sleep any other time. Like, I just can't do anything. And he was like, okay, this is normal. Not really, but it can happen. He's like, do you want me to prescribe you something and see if it helps? And I was like, no, I don't think I'm there yet. And he's like, well, if you ever hit a point where you're like, okay, I need something, he's like, call us. He's like, I'm going to put it in your chart.
Mm-hmm.
It was about a week and a half later, and things hadn't gotten better. So I called, and he put me on Zoloft. And what a difference.
Mm-hmm.
You don't realize how bad it is until you don't have it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been on Zoloft ever since October of 2021. Then fast forward to it was September or October of 2024. I felt so good after I had Marina. I remember telling my staff, I was like, I have not felt this good mentally in years. And it all came crashing down. Like, I've never experienced this level of depression before. It was and still is very difficult, but it was debilitating. Like, I've had thoughts I never thought I would have. And luckily, I am a God fearing woman, because if I wasn't, or you figure out people who don't have that, who don't hold on to that, why they choose the decisions that they do.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went to my OB again. So I was still postpartum. I was like 4 months. And that was the other thing. It set on so late, but you can fall victim to postpartum depression for up to a year.
Mm-hmm.
And I went in and he was asking me questions, and Zoloft mainly treats anxiety. And he put me on Wellbutrin.
Mm-hmm.
And I noticed a huge difference.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, a medicine's not a cure-all. You still have your moments. Like, it's not like some magic eraser, like, oh, you don't have anxiety or depression anymore. It just makes it more manageable. There are
Mm-hmm.
still days where I am so low.
Mm-hmm.
And there's other days where I have all the energy in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And what this last time, the reason I was like, okay, something's got to give. I had put on a ton of weight again. I had lost so much weight after having the baby, like my starting weight and I had put on like 20 pounds in like 2 months. And keep in mind, this was after I went back on birth control, after my 6-week appointment. I really feel like my body does not like birth control,
Mm-hmm.
but I also obviously don't want to get pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and um, I was sleeping all the time. Like, I could sleep for 12 hours and still want to sleep for 12 more. No energy. Like, I could hardly take care of myself, let alone 3 kids. And I'm nursing one of them. I was doing the bare minimum, and my poor husband. It's like, and he doesn't get it. He still doesn't. He's never experienced it, and unless you've experienced it, you don't know what it's like.
Mm-hmm.
I just cried all the time and still do sometimes.
It's not funny.
I know.
But sometimes you just gotta
Yeah.
laugh through it
Yeah.
because I don't know. I
But
don't know how I deal with weird situations with humor, I guess.
yeah, I think we both do. It's kind of like a coping mechanism.
Yeah.
But like right now, I feel like I'm pretty good mentally for the most part. But yeah, I mean, this is such a heavy topic, but I would say, like, Shelby, did you see signs that I was depressed this last time?
Mm, I don't know. Like, I feel like you've had like several episodes, like, since you've had kids.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, maybe it doesn't stick out to me as much anymore.
Well, and like depression looks different on everybody.
Yeah.
Anxiety looks different on everybody.
Yeah.
Because, like, I feel like I'm overall a pretty happy person.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, I don't try to weigh everyone else down
Yeah.
whenever I'm feeling down.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and, think of like Robin Williams.
yeah,
He was always happy, always making other people laugh, but no one knew like the battle that he was facing inside. I feel like no one really knows.
no, like, I
Like,
was just reading an article about Stephen Boss, Twitch from Ellen.
mm-hmm.
It's like his wife just released a book, and she basically said he had this whole other life that she didn't even know about, and he had these demons that he was dealing with that she didn't know about.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why it's so important to have a support system that you can run to and
Mm-hmm.
be completely open with.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I know mom didn't know how bad it was until I was just like bawling.
Mm-hmm.
And then, if you know our mom, she's not always soft,
No.
rarely soft. And she just instantly changed her tune with me and was, a comforting mom.
Mm-hmm.
And, but yeah, it's something I wouldn't wish upon anyone.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like, you know, I'm going to get through it.
For sure.
So, like, for me, how I got support, I obviously, like, I went to my mom and she was like, you need to pray about it. And I was just praying, like, Jesus, take my worry away. Like,
Mm-hmm.
bring me back to my normal self.
Mm-hmm.
And what do I need to do to get there?
Mm-hmm.
And I went to the doctor and I also made everyone aware that I was going through it. Like, I told Shelby, I told my mom, my
Mm-hmm.
grandma, Derek.
So right now I feel pretty good.
So where I'm at currently, I feel pretty good with my anxiety. Again, I'm well medicated. Um, I still have some intrusive thoughts every once in a while, but I pray about that. Um, and my OB is the same OB as my sister, so he also controls my anxiety medication.
Wait, I need to stop you. Her new OB, not her
Yeah,
original OB,
yeah,
because that guy sucked.
yeah, yeah, yeah. My current OB now, yeah, we'll talk about, I won't name drop, but we'll talk about the other doctor
I want a name drop.
a different time. But yeah, my current OB controls my meds. So, and he's really great. Just like he is with Marissa. Like anytime I feel like, where I'm like, this isn't cutting it, he's like, all right, let's increase the dose and see how you do. And he's just been really great. For a male, I feel like he somewhat gets it. Like as close to as getting it as he possibly could.
And he'll never act like he does completely
Yeah.
get it. He'll flat out tell you
Yep.
that.
Yeah. He's very like, he just wants us to feel the best we can feel,
Mm-hmm.
like, and be the best moms we can be. So he's awesome. And then I actually, like, the word I'm focusing on this year is peace. So my church is doing, like, we kind of were talking about New Year's resolutions and like we were supposed to focus on one word. And so my word this year is just peace and just being at peace, like with everything. Not, just again, that's my word that I'm focusing on. The other thing that I'm doing is I'm trying to get more involved, get more involved in my church again. Since I got pregnant, I kind of fell off the face of the earth, one, because I never left my house for like 5 months. And then I had my daughter, and then anxiety of going places. Like, I didn't want to ever take her to church because I didn't want to take her back to the daycare because I was afraid she was going to get sick and then I'd have to miss work. So this year, my goal is to get us in church more. And I feel like that's just going to help fill my cup a little bit. I hope it fills it a lot. And then I think too, like my husband is really understanding. Like he didn't really understand what anxiety was until he felt anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
When he went through his little episode before we had Lainey, he actually thought he was having a heart attack, which
Yeah.
it's not funny, but it is funny because,
It's only funny because it's Jeremy
yeah,
having it and
because
how
my
he
husband's so
acts.
dramatic. He thought
Yeah.
he was having a heart attack. But, he wakes up the next morning and goes out and smokes his morning cig and drinks his coffee, all stimulants and not good for anxiety. But he didn't want to take any medication prescribed by the
For real.
doctor. But anyway, he gets what anxiety is, and he's super understanding. And I mean, he still thinks I'm crazy, but he doesn't make me feel crazy about it. And he knows that I have issues. And like I can remember last year when Lainey got RSV. Actually, it might have been COVID. It was one of the two, and Jeremy was on his way on a business trip going somewhere. And I called him like an hour after he left, and I was like bawling. And I felt so anxious because, again, intrusive thoughts. My kid has COVID. She can't breathe. And I was like, she's going to die. And he turned right back around and he's like, I'm coming home. I'm not going to leave you. And so I think just having a supportive spouse, like, is also good. 'Cause I think back to, like, I don't think my dad would have been that supportive with my mom early on in their marriage.
No,
I,
remember when mom had that anxiety? Our dad was in the hospital for COVID,
yeah.
and mom had like her first anxiety attack. She thought she was having a heart attack. Shelby called the squad.
And I knew it was anxiety, but I was like, well, she thinks she's having a heart attack. And I'm like, it's just anxiety, but I'll call 911.
And it all stemmed from our dad being in the hospital. He was really sick.
Well, that's when he
Her
had
dog
COVID.
died. I know, that's what I said.
Yeah.
Her dog had just died because we're pretty sure he had COVID.
Yeah.
And I vividly, like, she was just crying. It's like, how do you comfort your mom? And she called dad, and she's just crying on the phone, and he's like, yeah.
Yeah, he wasn't ever really comforting. God love him.
Derek reminds me so much of him. They just don't know how to respond.
Yeah.
Like,
but dad, when he had anxiety, the sky was falling, which I'm sure for him it was falling.
Probably.
But yeah. So anyway, having a supportive spouse is helpful. And then just being able to like talk about it.
Yeah, talking about it is what really helps me too. And along the supportive spouse, like my husband is very supportive. He puts up with a lot, but he doesn't understand depression. When I try to talk to him about how I feel, he looks like a deer in the headlights. Like, whoa, like, he doesn't know what to say, but he will do the dishes. He'll do the laundry whenever I'm laying on the couch. He'll change the baby's diaper. Like,
he shows his support through actions.
Yes, he does. He always has.
Yep.
And he's a great husband. So we're both very lucky to have supportive spouses. And a big thing for me is I just think, I have, for me, 3 little kids who need me, and I just want to be my best for them. And that's a good motivator.
Yeah, for sure. And even like following different like Instagram accounts and just reading like some of the like, you're doing good, mama. Like, knowing that you're not alone and you're not the only person that's feeling this way. Like, not saying it's totally normal, but some of it is normal. Like, all moms, can fall victim to postpartum depression and anxiety. And, even if you don't have kids, you can definitely still have it. We both had it before we had children, but I feel like once you have kids, it can even, like, for me, it was just like so much more extreme.
Yeah, well, the loss of sleep and the stress just feeds it.
Yeah.
But like I said earlier, depression, anxiety, mental illness, it doesn't discriminate. It can happen to anyone. So it's just important to have a good support system. And if you see someone struggling, like when Shelby was going through it before she got on her medication, like, because she's my sister, I did it in a pretty brutally honest way. Like, you need meds. But there's other moms where I've been like, it doesn't have to be like this.
Mm-hmm.
And it shouldn't be. Like, you shouldn't have to deal with this when there's a solution.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big step to ask for help, but you'll never regret it.
For sure.
Never once have I ever regretted going to my OB and bawling my eyes out, just telling him everything.
Mm-hmm.
And even if you don't want medication, just finding that one or a couple different people that will have your back and support you in whatever way, just letting it all out to them,
Mm-hmm.
it will make a world of a difference.
Yeah. And definitely, like, if you go to a provider who doesn't hear you, get a different provider.
Yes.
Find someone who validates you and validates your feelings.
Don't let them dismiss you.
Yeah. Because we both had instances where that happens. And, doctors, even though they think they know everything and they think they're always right, they don't. Nobody knows you better than you.
So, this was a really deep and heavy conversation. I think it's a good way to start us out.
Mm-hmm.
We got issues.
Lots of them.
Yes. But on a serious note, if you or someone you know is struggling, you can always reach out to us, reach out to someone you trust. Just know that you're not alone
Mm-hmm.
and help is always there for you. So for now, that is Walter's Wives and Woes.
Bye.